Today, I am going to do a review about a story, The Country of the Blind. It is a short story which is written by H.G. Wells. It was first published in Strand magazine in the April 1904. The story uses a third-person narrator, and the whole incident is described from different perspectives and in the eyes of a spectator. This narrator is suitable for the story since this can let us know everything that occurs, as well as the feelings of everyone. The story begins with a mountaineer called Nunes. He attempts to climb on Periscotopet, which is a mountain in Ecuador, but he falls off accidentally and rolls down along the snow slope in the mountain. Finally, he goes into a strange country which is isolated by the world. He found that it is the country of the blind. In that country, Nunes found that he can rule and teach the citizens about the sight. He remembers an old rhythm, which is in the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. However, citizens think that he is strange since they do not have the concept of sight. They do not understand, even Nunes keeps explaining to them. Eventually, he falls in love with a woman called Medina Sarod. He finds her beautiful, but the citizens do not, since they are blind and cannot appreciate her beauty. He gains the permission to marry her, but he has to do a surgery to remove his eyes, since the doctor there regards the eyes as a disease which affects the brain. Here comes to the climax of the story, and finally, Nunes gives up his relation with Medina and leaves the country of the blind, hoping to find a way to go back to the outside world. The structure of the story is set up well. It shows how the incident begins and how the story develops. Also, the climax of the story is clearly shown. The plot of the story is definitely a journey, as the main character, Nunes, is having an adventure in the country of the blind. For the setting of the story, it is set in the near future that doesn't date. The time is not specified, and it happens in an alternative world where a fictitious country exists in the valley in Ecuador. The characters in the story are effective. There is a protagonist, which is Nunes, and antagonists, which are the citizens. They think that Nunes is crazy and have conflict with him, such as having a fight. The genre of this story is a soft science fiction, as it is based on the social science. It elaborates more about sociology and psychology instead of scientific theories. For example, the story expresses the inner heart struggle of Nunes since he has to make a trade-off between his eyes and his lover. It also shows an important characteristic of the society, which is the majority can hardly accept the minority. In the story, the citizens in the country are not willing to accept the concept of the sight and think that Nunes is strange and crazy. The technology in the story is significantly not advanced. In the story, as the country is isolated by the world, the citizens just like having primitive living. They lead a simple and laborious life as they do not have machines to help them. They have to do things by themselves. Talking about the human nature in the story, Nunes has a tendency to have a family. He would like to get married with Medina Sarod and have a family with her. He also has a tendency to be the king of the country and try to rule the blind citizens with his own concept. The minds of the citizens are mainly the ideal, since they only want to have a simple life and with all the elements of virtue and happiness. They only need sufficient food and clothing and some pleasure, such as playing music and singing. Citizens in the country have free will and they have the opportunity to choose what they want to do. The world is not determined. The society of the country is formed with an linear evolution. In the early years, there was an earthquake and cut a country off from the rest of the world. The isolated society was then affected by a disease which making all newborns blind and even no eyes at all. In the society, there are different ages of people, such as infant, lover like Nunes and Medina, father and grandfather, etc. There are also different ranks. For example, there is a doctor in the country who helps curing Nunes and suggests removing his eyes. Also, in the country, the older men have higher rank than the younger one. When Nunes first arrives the country, the younger men bring him to the older one. This shows that the older men have higher rank in the society. In the country, they only lead a simple life and do things related to the physiological aspect, such as making foods and clothing for their basic needs. They work together as a group and make division in their work so that they can do things effectively. The citizens live a life of virtue in agreement with nature. Their lives are primitive and they do nothing to violate the nature. For the history of the country, it is affected by geography. It evolves because of the change in landform due to earthquake. There is actually no government in the country and the citizens are just listening to the order of the older man. This story is easy read and the quality of the language is good. The environment of the world and the feelings of the characters are described thorough and detailed. Dialogues are also used sufficiently so that the story becomes more interesting. The literary style is so far so good. There are lots of description about the environment and the feelings as well as speech. But the dramatic scenes, such as the fighting between eunuchs and citizens, are just told ordinarily, instead of using show don't tell method. To summarize, The Country of the Blind is a good science fiction and reflects a lot on human nature. I would highly recommend this story for you to read.